Good afternoon and welcome to the Brown Bag on the Brazos for June 1st of 2023. I'm Judy Pierce, Public Information Officer for the Brazos River Authority and your host for this virtual public meeting. We have some exciting news about drought conditions today. We'll be talking with Aaron Abel, our Water Services Manager, about lake levels and what to expect this summer. And then we'll also be talking with our Reservoir Manager for Possum Kingdom Lake, Randall McCartney, about some changes occurring in law enforcement up at Possum Kingdom. So before we hop on in there, we just have a little bit of housekeeping to talk about. We really encourage everyone to ask questions during this town hall meeting. You can do so at any time during the presentation by clicking on the button in the upper right-hand corner there that has the question mark and choosing Ask a Question, and we'll get to as many questions as possible before the end of our meeting today. If we don't get to your question, though, you may send us an email at information@brazos.org, and we will send your question back with an answer as quickly as possible. So just a little bit about our board meetings. The last board meeting was held May the 22nd, 2023, and our next one will be held in July. All of our board meetings are live stream on our YouTube channel. And if you are not able to tune in at the time the meeting is taking place, you can always go to our website, brazos.org, and look for under About Us, our board meetings. Under Board Minutes, you can actually choose the agenda items that you'd like to listen to and however that meets your interests. Our last board meeting was held May the 22nd. It was a jam-packed agenda. Here, there were a number of resolutions passed, and here are just a few of them. You can see all of them on our website, brazos.org, and watch those board minutes. A couple of the things that our board did do was pass resolutions affirming some changes to our East Williamson County groundwater well infrastructure design and an expansion of that water delivery system that's a potable water treatment in Williamson County. We also had contract extensions for our Hutto wastewater treatment operations and our Sandy Creek water treatment plant in Leander. And then also approval of a contract for construction of the Possum Kingdom Lake Spillway Pump and Piping Improvement Project. And again, you can learn a lot more about all of those projects by going to our website. So we're going to get into talking about drought. Aaron Abel is our Water Services Manager. And Aaron, tell us, it's been raining.
Yeah.
What's going on? The National Weather Service says we're still in a drought. So what's up with that?
Yes, unfortunately, and folks, driving down the roads, they see the beautiful wildflowers. They see corn that is just amazing. The crops are doing really well, but it has to do with the long-term impacts of drought and what we're seeing at the reservoirs and lower lake levels. That is a long-term impact of drought, and that's really why we're still in a drought. Is we're not seeing enough stream flow to fill the reservoirs or make significant increases in the reservoirs. The graphic that we see here, this is the U.S. Drought Monitor, and that's information that's developed weekly from the National Drought Mitigation Center, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Division. They compile this information, and it basically presents the drought impacts from a geographic standpoint. So the drought intensity, the legend in the lower left-hand corner, you can see the different categories. So, the yellows are abnormally dry, all the way up to exceptional drought, which is that reddish brown. So what you're seeing here is also our reservoir locations and the percent full of each of the reservoirs overlaid, from the drought monitor. So obviously, we've been talking about all the rain and increased lake levels along and downstream of I-35. We've been getting a lot of rain in those areas, and we have essentially full lake levels in those areas. But if you go upstream west of I-35, you can see, some areas upstream of Belton, Lakes Belton, and then around Lake Proctor, we're still in severe drought for those areas. But if you drive in those areas, you see a lot of green. And so the drought impacts our water supply and longer term. The shorter term impacts what we see as far as degradation in crops and everything. We're not seeing that anymore because we have seen some rain and the soils are wet, and now the crops and the pasture lands are growing. So to resolve, I guess, the longer term water supply impacts, we need to have rains in the right areas and significant rains to produce stream flow, to fill stock tanks, and to produce inflows into the larger reservoirs like Belton and Stillhouse Hollow and Georgetown and Proctor. So that's kind of why people are still seeing on the news, we're still in drought, but we are seeing some impacts and some improvements in the impacts as we go forward, especially over the last couple of months. And we can go to the next slide and we can talk about the improvements in the lake level. So this is the water supply reservoir status of all 11 reservoirs within the BRA water supply system. And we produce this on a weekly basis, but this is a little different because we're actually comparing the 2-month change from the percent full in late March to late May. So over just a couple of days ago, we pulled the information. So in the upper right-hand corner, you can see the percent full of all 11 reservoirs in that first column. The second column is a 2-month percent change. So looking at what's happened over the last 2 months, what kind of increases have we seen as far as the percent full in each of the 11 reservoirs? That third column is the drawdown. So that's basically the distance below the top of conservation or full elevation of each of the reservoirs, and then the 2-month change in the drawdown. So what you're seeing here is some improvements. We are still in stage 1 drought watch for the entire system. Lake Proctor is still in stage 3 drought emergency, which requires a 20% reduction in water use. The stage 1 drought watch is a 5% reduction in water use. So we're still seeing those types of entrances or statuses in our drought contingency plan, but we're seeing some lake level increases. So if you go on the far right-hand corner of that table, we have obviously Lake Somerville, Lake Limestone, Lake Granger are all full now or close to full. We've seen some increases in the Little River system, which those are the reservoirs that have been most impacted by the drought that started, in the fall of 2021 to now. Lake Georgetown has increased by about 2.2 feet. We've seen a little bit of increase at Stillhouse Hollow. Lake Belton has come up 1.7 feet over the last 2 months. And Lake Proctor, which obviously, it's the most impacted reservoir right now as far as our drought stage, it has come up about a foot over the last 2 months, and really that's happened in the last several weeks. So we're seeing some improvements in the drought, and we'll continue to see the forecast, and we can get into that a little bit later. But we are still seeing some rain chances. We're now entering June, which June is still a month where we can receive substantial rains. Normally, the July and August timeframe, if you think about typical Texas summers, it's typically hot, it's typically dry. So overall, we're at 81%. We've seen a 6% increase in the percent storage over the 11 reservoirs, and that's definitely, great news, heading into the summer months.
Sure.
Sure.
So what will it take to get us out of that stage 1 or to get Proctor out of stage 3?
Yeah. So as far as stage 1 as a system, currently we are above the storage trigger for stage 1 as a system. So what BRA's drought contingency plan states, and this is a plan that is submitted and approved by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. They're the ones that regulate drought contingency plans in the state. What it requires is we have to be above a certain trigger for 30 consecutive days before we can evaluate on whether or not we need to rescind that drought stage. So we did rise above the stage 1 trigger for the system, which is about 79% full in mid-May.
Okay.
Yes, about 2 weeks ago. So we'll be evaluating the possibility of possibly rescinding stage 1 drought watch as a system over the next several weeks. And then that's, a possibility. Lake Proctor's still, we've improved. We're, definitely much above the stage 4 provider curtailment trigger. So that's given us some time to, hopefully get some more rains to improve, and we're not still have some work to do to get, above that stage 2 trigger that would rescind that.
Well, I know that it's possible that we're moving from La Nina weather pattern into the possibility of a neutral or possibly an El Nino weather pattern. Is that what you think we're looking at now?
Yeah, so I think if you go to the next couple slides, keep going. One more. Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that, we're looking at, and that's in the news substantially, is we are transitioning from La Nina into neutral and then El Nino. We're rapidly approaching El Nino. And so I know the news out there, El Nino and La Nina is basically the sea surface temperatures off the coast of South America along the equator. That really drives our weather, and particularly in the cool phase where those water surface temperatures are cooler, that really tends to move storm systems above us, and we don't get much rain. And that's what's happened over the last several years. So we are transitioning into, it appears like an El Nino situation, which is warmer than normal sea surface temperatures off the equator. And oddly enough, the Atlantic Ocean is also very warm as well. So there's some unknowns about what El Nino will bring, as far as will it bring the above normal rainfall, which typically happens with El Nino. And that typically happens in the fall and winter when we get those rains. But we can have a flood, we can have significant rainfall really any month of the year. And we're approaching Atlantic hurricane season, that started today. And so we have to look at the Gulf of Mexico and potential for hurricanes and tropical systems to bring rainfall as well. So we really don't know exactly what's going to happen. But as far as the June outlook, what we're seeing this month is continued above normal precipitation probabilities for a lot of the basin, particularly the far upper portion of the Brazos River Basin above PK, and that's what you're seeing here. So this was issued yesterday, but it's a monthly precipitation outlook looking over the whole U.S. But the green areas are probability of above normal precipitation in the month of June, and you can see that we are looking that way as far as increased rain chances, and that's really over the next 10 days. And over the next several days, we're going to see some rain chances in the upper part of the basin and potentially in the central part of the basin. So if you go to the next slide, the summer outlook, there's really no indication of whether we're going to have above or below normal rainfall chances. It's kind of a flip of the coin. But I will say that, like I said before, in July and August, there's a potential for definite rainfall, tropical systems that can produce some rainfall and help the drought situation. So, we'll have to see, but that's where we are.
So is it possible that some of the reservoirs in the system won't fill?
Yeah, that's a possibility that, we do have, going back to the slide before, as far as the reservoir graphics and where we are, that is definitely a possibility for some of the reservoirs in the Little River system, where we, have some work to do as far as, getting back to full, reservoir storages. But, it's possible that over the next, month that we see some significant rainfall and continued improvement. So, we have been seeing improvement over the last 2 months. And I think, in the near term, we'll continue to see some improvement.
Okay.
Now,
So it's about 64% of the basin currently still under drought conditions of some type, even though they're a little bit lighter. Is conservation still important? People should conserve.
yeah, absolutely.
We kind of blacks off a little bit.
No, absolutely. Water conservation, that is the behaviors that you do on an everyday basis to try not to waste water. And that's, we would like to, see that all the time. And that's what water conservation is. And it is definitely important, to do that. The smallest thing, turning off the water while you're brushing your teeth or shaving, taking showers versus baths, those are things that can be done that saves water all the time, every day. But, we are still in a drought in portions of the basin. You may go up to the next, yeah, right there. We talked a little bit about the rain that we've observed and along I-35 and downstream. This is the 60-day observed precipitation. We've, a lot of places, from along I-35 and downstream have really seen a lot of rain, 8 to, 20 inches of rain only over the last 2 months. If what we need is that type of rainfall to occur a little bit further west, and we would see, additional improvement in those reservoirs along I-35 and upstream in the PK Granbury area, and then obviously in the Proctor to Belton area. The next slide, go down one. So this is the departure from normal precipitation, and this shows how much above or below normal rainfall we've received over the last 2 months. And so the purples and the blues, those are above normal precipitation. So that's precipitation above what we normally get, how much above normal was the last 2 months. And that's, really, those are the areas where we have full reservoirs. Upstream of Proctor and Belton, we are seeing some rain. We're seeing above normal rainfall, but it just hasn't been enough to produce more significant inflows and to cause lake level rises. And so, these larger reservoirs like Possum Kingdom, like Belton, it takes a larger event to really increase those lake levels and show improvements in the water stored in those reservoirs. Obviously Possum Kingdom, we've increased as far as the lake level goes there, about 1.4 feet over the last 2 months, and really even more so than that here recently. And that's from continued rainfall up in the upper part of the basin. We're going to continue to see that, going in over the next couple of weeks and into the rest of June.
Okay. So the summer, I know you're not a forecaster, but what would you like people to know the rest of the basin about what to expect this summer?
So I think, water supply conditions have improved over the last several months. Current trends are we're going to show possibility of continued improvement, throughout this month. And so, I think we're going to have potentially some areas that are still in drought conditions. But overall, the BRA water supply system, remains in good shape, and we're going to be able to provide water to all the users throughout the basin, as we enter the summer months. And that's really the take home message is the system is doing what it was designed to do. Droughts are come and go, and hopefully we're on the upward trend and transitioning from drought to, maybe not drought. So that's hopeful. I'm hopeful, that will occur. It may take a little bit more time and may take us to get into the fall months where we have, additional rainfall. But, I think that's where we're trending, and, everything is operating as it is intended to do with the system.
Well, we've seen improvement, and that's the best we can hope for right now. We're not in the terrible drought that we were in a year ago, so it's proving. Well, thank you, Erin. We appreciate your time. And before we head into our next presenter, I'd like to talk to everybody just for a second about an upcoming event this summer. If you're at all familiar with hunting, you may have seen this before, and we're already getting questions about it. But every year, The BRA sponsors waterfowl hunting drawings for places where you can place a hunting blind at one of our reservoirs, and it's done kind of by a lottery process. And every year we get people starting in June asking about when the dates will be for our waterfowl hunting drawings. So here they are for you. We're starting out with Lake Granbury in August, on August the 25th, a Friday. We usually have quite a number of people show up for that drawing, and if for some reason you show up and you hope to get a spot and you don't, the very next day we're having a drawing at Possum Kingdom Lake on Saturday, August 26th. You can see the doors open at 8 there, and signups will start up at 9 with the drawing immediately after. And then our final reservoir, Lake Limestone, on the east side there, will be on August the 25th as well. Just a little bit of information for you. If you're interested in signing up for these drawings, you must be at least 18 years of age and present the day of the drawing. The one person per entry, but up to 4 hunters per blind on that entry once you're drawn. And you must have Texas hunting license and a Texas duck stamp endorsement, as well as a federal water stamp. And we provide you the location, but you provide the blind structure if you would like one. There is a fee. It's $200 permit fee that's due at the time of the drawing if your name is chosen. And please be prepared with a check or money order for that deposit. We cannot take a cash or credit cards for that day. If you have additional questions about waterfowl hunting drawings, please do feel free to give the lake a call that we're interested in having your hunting blind. So moving on to our next topic, we have Randall McCartney, our reservoir manager for Possum Kingdom Lake here, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about some changes that occurred at our last board meeting. The board voted to move ahead to change the way that we handle law enforcement at Possum Kingdom Lake. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. We've had some challenges backfilling our vacant positions. With the number of vacancies that we had, we decided that this might be an opportunity for us to look at other models and see how maybe some other agencies are handling, their law enforcement. And so we modeled so we chose to model after some of these other agencies, such as San Jacinto River Authority, the LCRA, and United States Army Corps of Engineers. So basically what we did was we thought, well, if these guys are doing it and it's being productive for them, it allowed us an opportunity to move forward in that direction.
Okay, great. So we had 5 positions
Correct.
at Possum Kingdom Lake, and I know we have 2 current lake rangers, and you had 3 positions open. So why do you think that was, that we had these positions open for quite a while?
Well, I think that there are challenges across the board with hiring law enforcement at this time. So I don't think that it was just an issue with the BRA.
All right. So what does this agreement bring to the BRA exactly? What will they see differently here?
I believe that it brings a centralized command with the county. It allows, again, it's going to mirror other agencies where this has been productive in those settings. The county will still patrol all of the BRA restricted areas, our office buildings, our dam, our trail system, our public use areas, and all of our parks. So, the biggest thing is going to help reduce maybe some liability and or just have that centralized command that'll be easier for, I think, everyone to kind of figure out who they need to call if there's a need for an emergency.
So the county is taking on quite a bit of responsibility there. How can they afford to do this change?
So part of our agreement with the county is that the BRA will provide an annual allotment to the county, as well as several assets to help assist in this transition and for them to take on this endeavor.
So what will the public see differently with this change?
Hopefully, in theory, nothing. I mean, they should still be able to see the same amount of, officers. They're going to see at a minimum, 2 officers. During holiday seasons, they're going to have a chance to see more. Again, that's up to the county at that point in time. But we feel like there should be no issues really in the transition period.
So how does this benefit the BRA?
So again, some of the things that you'll see with the BRA is that, we've got an opportunity to work and have a centralized command with the county. It's going to help with resource efficiency. And as previously stated, again, I can't emphasize enough, a centralized law enforcement for the area. And again, should be little to no change.
So I know in the past when people have needed something law enforcement wise up at PK, they could call 911 if there's an emergency. So how will that change? Who should the public call now?
Yes, 911 will still be the answer for an emergency. As always, a 911 operator will dispatch somebody out as soon as possible to their location to help assist with whatever their needs are.
So who should they call if it's not an emergency situation, but they still feel like they need to call someone in law enforcement?
The Palapena County Sheriff's non-emergency line, and that number is 940-659-2085. And they can get in touch with someone on the other end of the line that could help assist them in the areas of their needs.
Well, so what do you think the public should know, take away from, about this change that the BRA board made?
Our hope is that people that live and work and enjoy PK, they should see no major changes in this transition period. Obviously, there may be a little hiccups, right at the beginning, just until everyone kind of understands their new roles. But once everything is up and running, I think that everything should be just as good, if not better, than what we had previously.
Okay. Well, I know we still have 2 lake rangers on board. So what will change for them?
So they were offered the opportunity to apply with the county and the sheriff's department. However, they both chose to stay with us here at the BRA, which is a good thing. Their new titles will be reservoir program coordinators. And so some of their essential functions will consist of public outreach and education. They'll be able to monitor and perform minor maintenance on our BRA lands, and then also within our restricted areas, parks and trails. So that'll be some of the duties that they perform. Also, they'll coordinate special events, i.e. Red Bull events, things of that nature, 4th of July, triathlons and such, fishing tournaments. So they'll be the main point of contact to be able to work through for those special event agreements. We're also going to have those folks coordinate environmental and natural resource programs there at PK, and then also provide customer service to the public and assist on holidays and during those weekends in the summer.
Right. So really not really any change to PK, just more or less they'll see a different uniform on the officers that they see out on the lake and in the parks.
That is correct. Yes. I mean, that's the hope, is that at the end of the day, things will be just as efficient, if not more efficient than they were prior to this transition.
Well, Randall, thank you for taking the time to come out and talk to us about this.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think we'll go to questions and answers now. At this point, I don't see any new questions up there. We did have a couple that were posed this week that we thought we might be able to discuss today. And some of this, Aaron, I asked you to come and talk about these questions mainly because they refer to changes that occurred this last week. And over Memorial Day weekend, just before the weekend, as it was getting started, we made some changes to the release coming from Possum Kingdom Lake. So putting a little bit more water in the river. And I know there were a lot of people that were wondering, hey, what happened? Why are you letting more water out of Possum Kingdom Lake when it's not yet full? We had a number of callers ask that same question. So tell us what happened there.
Yeah, so we have what's called minimum flow requirements that are within our water right. Our system operation permit and our water management plan requires us to release water at certain levels in certain times of the year from Possum Kingdom. So the transition from, we were releasing about 50 cubic feet per second and we went up to 100 cubic feet per second. That was because the lake level at Possum Kingdom rose above the 994.5 elevation. So between the months of March through June, we have to increase the release to 100 CFS if the lake level, rises above 994.
And that's a requirement of our permit.
And that's a requirement of our permit. That's our water rights are, those were issued through Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. And those are requirements as a water right holder that we must satisfy. Those flow requirements.
So even though the lake is not entirely full, we do need to, excuse me, worry about how much water is going downriver for the sake of the river's environment as well.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we've had the same type of question coming for the area of the Central Basin, really the Lake Belton area. We've had a lot of concerns, citizens wondering why it's not come up as much as some of the other lakes in the area, and also, pretty much where the water is going to around that central part of Lake Belton area. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, we have seen some lake level increases. As I mentioned earlier, we've had, I think, about a 1.7 feet rise in lake level at Lake Belton since the latter part of March through, just a couple of days ago over that 2-month period. So we have seen some lake level increases. Belton is a really large reservoir. It's our third largest reservoir within the Brazos River Basin. So it takes a good amount of water to flow into the reservoir to equate to a lake level increase. And so, we need to get more rain and really above normal rainfall from, the Belton area, western part of Bell County up into, Coryell County and Hamilton County. That's where rain needs to fall in the watershed to produce increased stream flow and increased inflows in the reservoir. It remains to be seen, if we'll get that, over the next couple of months, before we transition into a more, what everybody thinks is a typical, Texas summer. But, that's kind of why Belton hasn't increased as much as, everybody has hoped that it has increased. There's obviously, we still continue to have water use. Evaporation is occurring, so, all of that is still ongoing. We just need more water entering the reservoir to affect a lake level increase.
So when people see it raining in their neighborhood and they're wondering, well, it's rained 2 inches here, why hasn't the lake come up 2 inches? What's the reason for that?
Well, it could be as simple as the location of that neighborhood. The water may run off downstream of the lake. Also, what falls on one location doesn't necessarily fall on, even a couple of 100 yards away. So rainfall happens kind of on a heterogeneous perspective. So, varies pretty substantially over the course of the whole reservoir. But really, to get the inflows and the water to make the lake level rise, you need the water, the rain to fall upstream in the watershed. Sometimes we'll get rain that on top of the water, on top of the lake surface itself, and it will rise about the amount that it falls on the surface. But to really get a substantial increase, we need those rains upstream in the watershed.
Right. And it has to fill the rivers and the ponds and the tanks and everything else along the way before it runs downstream to fill up the lakes.
Absolutely.
Well, I think those are the questions that we had for today. Again, if you do have questions or anything you'd like to ask us about, please feel free to give us a call or send us an email at information@brazos.org, and we're happy to answer your questions. And If we don't know the answer, we'll find it for you and get back to you as soon as possible. So we do appreciate everyone joining us for this version of Brown Bag on the Brazos. We hope you'll join us on the next one, which will be held in August, and we look forward to seeing you all then. Thanks very much for joining us today.